What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. This right here, as you all know, is the podcast where we dive into the deep, dark, murky waters with a plethora of legendary guests. I am, of course, your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the number one scumbag, Rex Ruger. That's REXXX. You might also know me as the King of Sleaze, a.k.a. the Hair Metal High Priest, and most importantly, always, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. Take one look. Should be pretty evident. My lawyers are on their way to proving that it is. That you were looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band, just smoked a lot of grams. I got a million fans. I'm your ice cream man, Mr. Wop Bop Loo Bop Wop Bam Bam Shazam. Hot damn. Oh, I'm feeling good. Pops, everybody in the house looking good, including you all out there. You know how I get it done. Right there, kids. Coming to you as always from the Lavender Lounge of Love. Joined as always by the great Keith Hernandez Puppet, who I couldn't do this without. We are bringing you the No Frills podcast. No frills, because we don't know how to give them to you. This is very lo-fi and primitive over here, but we can give you thrills. And that's looking at these faces. Rock stars. Take a look. They don't come around often. And, of course, you see everything here. We don't know what we're doing. There's no discretion. There's no editing. It's all haphazard. But, you know, hey, I'm a 50-year-old guy. What can I do? Handcuffed here. I'm limited. So that's why you see me, half-assedly inviting my guests here. There's no hiding anything here. There's no hiding anything. As I've said many a time, this is the antithesis of the motley crew of podcasting. You see it all. No tricks here. And our guest is here. So let's get into it and chop it up with him on Pod Scum. I am pumped for this one. As my pen goes flying. There he is.
Contact. Hey.
How are you, buddy?
Nice to see you. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that a guy that's been, doing this for as long as you have, Harry the Tyrant Conklin from JAG Panzer, you can obviously see the similarities between me and the old man here, right?
Yeah, I do.
Good. First of all, congratulations on another great album, man. The Hallowed is, it's what we've come to expect from JAG Panzer. It's a beast. It's a face melter.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. Didn't really think it was going to turn out like that when we first did it. But as the songs went in, it really started to grow into something really spectacular. So
I'm interested, going back a couple of years when everything got real fucking crazy with COVID and everything. How did that affect you and like the band? Yeah, I mean, like, what, did that put a halt to any shit you guys had going on or derail anything? How did COVID impact you guys?
It didn't attack really JAG Panzer too much. No, we weren't ready to do anything at that time. Mark was writing songs, and he had like maybe three and a half songs ready, and no one knew what they wanted to do yet. I had also pre-planned I was doing 3 Tremors at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to cancel a whole tour because of that, because the flights just got canceled right out from underneath our feet. Flights were ordered. The tour was on, and it was going to be United States, and the flights just got thrown right out. So all during that, everybody just, kept quiet. And then when it was over, we were like, well, hey, 3 Tremors isn't going to be doing much because Tim's off doing his KK's Priest. He was putting that album out and doing a few shows with that. Tim does a lot of solo work as well.
Yep.
So we put the three Tremors on hiatus. Well, then Mark calls me up and says, hey, man, I'd like to do something with these 3 songs. You ready for an album? And I said, sure, man, let's go for it. So I had just finished putting out the Satan's Host album prior to that. So I was completely free creatively, and JAG Panzer is always first thing on my list anyway. So I told Mark, let's go. And he didn't Mark likes to keep things to his chest as far as like songs. So he didn't send me any songs off the bat. He says, I got 3.5 ready. You know, give me some time. So after, you know, a period of while, but yeah, the COVID didn't set us back really too much. A lot of people, you know, got infused. Some people didn't.
Right.
You know, after the fact now, hindsight being 2020, it really didn't make that much of a difference. But my wife and I, here in Greece, we had thought the whole time that it was just an elevated type of nomadic flu, you know, a flu that attacked the lungs.
Yeah,
because it happened every time there was a strike, it was around flu season.
Yeah, yep.
And it's a part of SARS, which is a flu virus anyway. So
right.
And they were treating it with the SARS vaccine. So to me, it was just like, it's just an elevated type of flu, you know, but whatever. It is what it is.
And when you guys get together now to do an album, you know, all these many years into your career, what's the creative process like with you guys as a band? Is someone coming with the lion's share of the ideas? Do you guys collaborate? Is it very democratic, or you know, how does it get done with you guys?
Well, we like to keep with the same Jag Panzer sound, and the best way to do that is to have 1 or 2 people writing all the music.
Yeah.
So what Mark does is he does a lion's share of the music. Now, for a couple albums, Casting the Stones and Mechanized Warfare, you know, Chris had been in the band close to 5 years at that point, and he decided, hey man, I got 3 or 4 ideas, 5 or 6, 7, 8 ideas, and then we whittle it down to what is closest to the Jag Panzer, you know, sound that we want, because some things that, you know, other people will write is just out of the window for, you know, what Jag Panzer is sounding like. So right now we just have Mark writing everything, and then he gives it to Rickard. Obviously, Mark puts down computer drums because he doesn't play drums, and then sometimes when Rickard's drums get on it before my vocals, it completely changes the feel of the song because he's a real drummer.
Yeah,
that's how we do it. Mark comes up with the songs. He completes the song entirely, arranges and everything to what he thinks, you know, it should be. Then he gives it to Rickard, and he gives it to me at the same time, and John at the same time, to start our parts in on it. And then if we have changes, like I might say, hey, you know, is this the verse? Well, let's make this a bridge, and let's make this a verse. And we'll make changes and alterations, and if Mark thinks it's good and everybody else agrees with it too, that's where the democratic part comes in. Then we'll edit it ourselves and arrange it ourselves. And then usually everybody will critique my vocal melodies. We never critique the drums and the bass. You know?
Only you, huh?
Well, sometimes my vocal melody doesn't match what Mark intended.
Right.
Most of the time it supersedes it and it goes a different direction that is like cool for him.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we stay within the Jag Panzer vision.
Serve the song.
So, and I'm the type of guy that I enjoy and I adore criticism. So if you can tell me that part sucks, and you don't even have to tell me how to do it better, you can just say what you think sucks about it, and I will change it on the spot. And Mark and I have been recording in the studio for years. I record right alongside Mark, and that's how we put our songs together. Mark writes the body, and then we put our shit on it later.
And as you guys have progressed through your career, you know, and you know, obviously I'm 50 years old myself. Obviously we can't do the stuff that we did when we were in our teens and our 20s. How has the narrative for you guys changed as far as like touring? I mean, you know, how much out on the road life do you guys like at this stage of your career?
Well, you know, we're still out there doing it, and we just did a club tour a couple of years ago when Ken, you know, was along with us. Now he's actually in the band, but and we went back to the clubs and we were packing these clubs. So we'd like to do larger shows whenever that's available to us, but we like playing the clubs. We like being down with the people. And you know, I don't know if you know what it's like to be in a place that you love, doing what you love, but you get energized by that.
Sure.
And a power of youth comes over you, you know, like the Midas touch or something.
Yeah.
And you get empowered just by doing that and feeling that. And plus the power of creation, you know, when you're creating things, when you're making a song, when you're building a house, when you're working on a car to, you know, hop it up or turn it into a roadster, you know, that makes you happy in your heart and your soul. And that's what keeps you young. So sure, you know, I'm not moving and bouncing around as much as I used to, but I can do 100 push-ups, you know. You know, and since I grew up my life in Colorado, which is a high altitude and it's difficult to breathe, I can go anywhere and breathe, you know, and be super powered by oxygen. So in that respect, as a singer, it helps me out, you know, having this huge lung capacity because I was in a place that was like Krypton, you know, crushed on me my whole life.
And
you know, we're
and
old.
Do you remember
going?
Now, do you remember specifically who the first, real musician, artist, album, song, like what it was that really resonated with you, that really got this started this love for being a rock musician?
Ian Gillan from Deep Purple.
Okay.
I heard Space Truckin', and I was like, what the hell is that? Where he's up and up and up and up and up, and then he like hangs out there in the stratosphere for a long time. And then you're like, wow, shit. And then the melodies that he came up with, you know, and growing up with the Who and Thin Lizzy and Tigers of Pantang and all those rich melodies, Boston, you know,
bands that can sing,
you know, Styx, Yes. I mean, they all had rich melodies. Elton John, you know? So all that is in me. And I really don't like to go out and search for new bands. I really don't like to, you know, stretch my limbs and see what's new out there, because everything you listen to influences you in some way. Yeah. And I like to not be influenced. I like those oldies. I like who I am and I like what I do. So I don't want to accidentally be changed by something I listen to and go a different direction, you know? Right.
And as a guy who's obviously, you talk about, having a great singing range, obviously, certainly you are known for your voice. Over the years, is there anything that you do? Are you one of these guys that has like voice care or like a regimen or anything specific that you do? Or are you just a guy that can just go out there at any moment and just open up your voice and just do it?
You just got to keep it going, man. You know, just like a race car, if you race it, and then you let it sit for a couple of years, it may not start, you know, start it. And then what do when you get it back and it's starting again? You race the shit out of it, you know? So you keep that race car racing. And as long as you're keeping that engine pumping, that car is going to put it out for you. And that's what it is. When my voice is my instrument is my body. Right. I keep my body clean. I try to live a clean lifestyle. I try to keep well hydrated. But yeah, I got to sing all the time. I've got 2 different singers mixes that I have that I rehearse to when I've got large amounts of time off. I try to keep myself busy by doing projects for other people, guest vocals on this album, guest vocals on that album. You know, being in 3 or 4 bands, Satan's Host, Titan Force, 3 Tremors, Jag Panzer, you know, that keeps me busy vocally. They've either got me recording or touring or something, but you just got to keep your instrument going. You've got to just not let a lot of downtime bring you down. And, I think that's what hurt a lot of people like, Steve Perry and Don Dawkins. And it even hurt Jeff Tate. But now that Jeff's out there doing it, and he's been doing it for a couple of years, he's getting his range back.
Sounds great.
He's getting things back. But, man, when he first came back, he was struggling hard. And he was admitting in the press that, man, this is tough. Yeah. Singing my stuff it takes a lot of skill, So, it's like with anything. If you let that skill lapse, you're going to lose something, and you may never get it back. So I just try not to let it lapse as far as I can. I try to always keep going, always sing something every day. But that's how I became a singer. Right. I was singing shit all the time. I was waiting for the bus with Mark Brady on my school bus singing show tunes and stuff, saying Frank Sinatra and everything, and singing when it was raining, you know. So I've just been singing my whole life. So it's not something I have to try to do. It's just something that's in me that has to come out, you know.
Now, obviously, the business has changed, you know, drastically in terms of like, you know, record labels and traditional contracts and just, you know, how you guys make money nowadays. It's kind of become really a feast or famine out there. You know, with there being so much competition out there, you know, how fast, or do you guys not even worry about this as a band? How fast do you think about, you know, putting material out there? Because it seems like, especially now that we're getting back to a lot of singles, it seems like people are so worried about being forgotten about. Like people just aren't paying attention for as long anymore. You guys put out an album and then you automatically start to plot out, like, I mean, I know this album is brand new, but how fast in today's market do you think about like following it up? Like when I got to get the next piece of material out?
Well, now the last 3 albums, we've had like 4, 5, 6 years in between the album.
Right, right.
And we're really in a rush. We're all in our 60s, you know.
Right,
so we're
right.
to get the next thing out. And we wanted to make sure that the deal that we signed with the record company, whoever it was at the time before we signed, only wanted like 1 or 2 albums. We didn't want a big album deal. And that's what happened, you know, a long time ago, Century Media. They wanted a big album deal. So they basically demanded from us every 18 to 24 months, they needed another product. So that kept us going, you know, to push something out. But once we got out from underneath that contract and we got an SPV Steamhammer was 1 at a time. They're okay, let's do this. Let's see how it does with the option of a second. Okay, well, let's put out the second one. Let's see how it does with an option of the third. And so now that's how we've been doing it. And it's cool that way because when we're able to take time to write things and we're not pressured on putting things out, it allows us to be more creative and to put more quality into what we're doing. But yeah, we just want to set our sights on the now. So basically, we're putting this album out. We wanted to do a long press on it because we love the fans. We wanted to do a lot of free stuff for the fans. But yeah, we're hoping that it charts. And if it charts, then that charting is going to dictate what we do next.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of shows we play, where we go. We'd love to go to South America. We're trying to plan that in the future. We'd like to go to, you know, Cuba. We'd like to go to Rio. We'd like to go a ton of places. Also, we want to revisit these places we haven't been to in a long time.
Yeah.
We just saw Poland, but Poland wants us back. So we're basically just taking it one step at a time. And, I mean, people are loving it.
Yeah, they sure are.
It's just crazy. So if it charts really well, then yeah, that's our goal. Is we want to go out and reach as many people as possible in the next year or so, and go as many places as possible to put JAG Panzer, you know, out there on the map again.
Now, as I said earlier, you're so known for your iconic voice, but who are some other guys that you can look at, like from a fan standpoint, you know, in the rock world, and really say, wow, I really admire their voice? Who are some guys that you enjoy their singing?
Steve Perry.
Yeah.
Loved his original voice. Just on the albums, I like the Love is Strange Medicine. What he did on there is great. He has this cool timbre. Joe Lynn Turner, he had a great voice back then. Also, you know, Ian Gillan, the stuff that he was doing.
Yep.
The people now, I really like David Draymond. You know, he's really great from Disturbed.
Yes.
You know, and that's probably about it. You know, the guys in Halloween are really killer.
Yeah.
Super
Yes.
Great melodies. Love their melodies. You know, their harmonies are killer. You know, I'm into bands that do vocal harmonies.
Yes.
And people, you know, real big choruses, you know, that are rich and epic, you know, things like that. Because I come from listening to Boston and Peter Frampton, you know.
Yeah.
And I like to hear that. The ear candy, you know.
And you know, you are such an exuberant guy. You know what I mean? You're obviously very, you know, enthusiastic and still enjoying, you know, being in multiple bands and living this lifestyle. And I get the feeling I know the answer to this already, probably. But you know, are you somebody that ever has put like in your mind like a stop date on music, or are you just like a wheels? I'll do it till the wheels fall off.
I did at one time. A few years ago, I told Mark Brady when I, had my third kid, I'm like, nothing's happening with any of my bands, and it hasn't been happening for about 3 years. And I think I'm done. I'm happy with my family. I just want to focus on the family.
Yeah.
So I hung it up for about 5 years. And then Mark pulled me back out, and Satan's Host pulled me back out and said, man, the fans are wanting to put another album out. So I did By the Hands of the Devil with Satan's Host and started that 5 albums. Then I did Fourth Judgment, and we signed to Century Media and did those 7 albums. So yeah, right during that period, right before Fourth Judgment, when Joey left, I thought for the second time, I thought, let's just hang it up, or anyway, I just felt in me that I was okay with not doing it anymore. But now I know that getting back into it, this is really what internally makes me happy. I almost turn into a different guy when I'm not doing this, when I'm not involved with the creative process, when I'm not in doing band touring or band stuff. I turn into like a totally different guy. And I don't know, people around me kind of don't like that guy.
Right. So everyone around you saying, please go make an album.
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Go on tour.
This is your calling, and so lots of people in the movie industry, in the music industry, especially Steve Vai now, is really pressing it. And he's saying, the true success in life is doing something that you love, because you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is to me. It's a labor of love. I never feel like I'm putting in the work, like I'm pressured to do something. I feel like it's just all on me, stuff like that. I feel like this is something I want to freely give. And, the type of person I am on stage, I'm not the person that just like looks over people's heads and is a persona. I'm right there with them, I'm interacting, I'm pulling them into what I'm doing, and I'm shaking their hands. I'm looking at them directly in the eye, and we're having a good time up there,
Yeah.
And that's how it is. I mean, I'm just having the time of my life, when I'm doing music.
And now the music business now, as I mentioned earlier, has changed so much. You as somebody that's been, doing it for as long as you have, now we've got these streaming platforms, and it's really a shame, with the artists that I talk to on here, how the music system has ultimately seems like it's failed in terms of getting artists paid. Is there something the industry could have done or should have done and got in on all these platforms and stuff like back when this first started to take off? How can this be rectified and fixed? I mean, do you have an opinion on it?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know how they work, but I know that they shouldn't have been Netflix about it.
Yes.
They should have said, okay, if you want to pay for this service, pay just $10 a month and you'll get anything you want.
Yeah.
That's like crap. They should have made it like an album. Okay, well, you want this genre, you want this block of music, you want this radio station, instead of, pay for this and then you can get any radio station you want.
Yeah.
They should have like sold it in pieces to where it was harder to get. It was more tangible. It was more expensive. Then that way the artist would have been able to have, more control over that, or they would have been able to have the funds to pay the artists, know?
Right.
But nobody tracks that. And now there's so many out there that it'd be impossible to track that.
Yeah.
There's a computer out there, and there's a database out there that does track it, but nobody's policing that.
Right.
And if somebody did police it, oh my God, with the amount of music out there, they'd have to do 1/1000th of a penny every time it was spun. It would just be ridiculous,
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
It does hurt that we're not getting paid for our media. But what does help is when the promoters of the shows that put on these shows, the nightclubs, the festival stuff, if they would just allow the bands to keep their merch money and not infringe their percentages on the bands.
Yes.
It used to be the club would charge 10% if they can guarantee a packed house, you know, like a mid-sized festival or something, like we're talking 2,000, 3,000 people. They charge 10% to the bands to have their merch. Well, now they're charging 32, 37%. That's almost half.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the one thing that the bands have to make money on, since we can't make money on albums and CDs and downloads and streaming. Our merchandise that we put our hard money into to create, hats, shirts, bells, panties, butt plugs, all that stuff, you know? I mean, people are out there, they're buying that stuff because they want to give back to the band.
Yeah.
The promoters, they want to just like reach into your pocket and say, oh, just because you're here, you know, these people wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our festival. Well, check this out. If it wasn't for the bands, you wouldn't have a festival. So, you know, think of it, you know, respect the bands and say, look, you want to bring your stuff here, we'll move it back down to 10%. Yeah, I mean, when you've got 15, 30 bands on a bill that's streaming across 3 or 4 days, like most of these festivals, you know, Wakken's got close to 100 bands. I'm sure most of those bands don't have merchandise, but a lot of those bands do. And they're still collecting a percentage off of that. So we're talking millions of dollars that, you know, and all they got to do is sit and pick their nose. And it's just full up in. That's millions of dollars that could have went to buy an extra sandwich for the band member, or gas money, or tire that's blown out on the road. You
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
And it also seems like, unfortunately, bands are, and I've heard other artists talk about this, you know, this unscrupulous deal, like with these clubs, like where they want to kind of cut into the merch money. But then again, I mean, you know, aren't a lot of these bars are also making their money off? It's not like you guys get a piece of whatever they sell in terms of alcoholic beverages, right? I mean, like, you're not dipping into the till, so they shouldn't really be dipping into your merchandise money, you know? I mean,
in the early days, in the 80s and 90s, and maybe even the early 2000s, when we play clubs or small auditoriums, they would give us the choice. They would say, do you want a percentage of the door, or do you want a percentage of the alcohol sales?
Yeah.
They would let us keep 100% of our merch money.
Yeah.
I mean, what changed?
Right.
Was it greed?
Yes.
Is that
it probably was? Yeah, it probably was. And unfortunately, it looks like bands now are trying to make up that difference, because now I've been to some shows recently where they're really pushing the envelope on what's appropriate to ask for a T-shirt sometimes. I mean, it's getting crazy, you know?
Well, it's because of that. If you wanted $15 for a T-shirt and you got to pay $8.50 of that back to somebody else, that was your profit. That was your profit. So now you have to charge an additional $7 or $8 to get your profit back. So now that T-shirt that was $15, $20 is $25, $30.
Right.
You know, that was $30 is now $50, $70.
Right.
You know, and that's just, back in my day, we called that price gouging.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Well, thing to say, but I mean, you know, if you went in one supermarket and their tomatoes were, you know, 10 cents, and then you went into 3 other supermarkets and their tomatoes were 10 cents, and you went into this other supermarket and their tomatoes were bigger and redder, but they charged 50 cents.
Right.
Where would you shop?
Sure. Right. You're right. Right. Right.
You know?
And you know, the one thing out of that little segment of our conversation, though, that hopefully people will take away is that you can get a JAG Panzer butt plug.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. We'll have to manufacture them. You know, I'll type JAG Panzer on my thumb, and we'll see how that works.
Yeah, supply and demand. I mean, if the people want it, I'm interested with as much traveling as you do, and you talk about going to these various festivals and everything. You yourself, that's been doing this for so long, are there ever people that you bump into where you get a little starstruck or overwhelmed to see, or are you past all that now?
Yeah, let's go back to Headbangers Open Air. Okay, now Headbangers Open Air. I don't know if you've been to any of these open airs or something in your life.
No.
But backstage, behind the actual stage that you see, especially Headbangers, it's just one big ass stage.
Yeah.
So behind that is a bunch of containers, and within the containers they have some bands that change out and some bands that stay all day, and they're air conditioned and everything. And we've got our own catering back there. That's where all the crew hangs out.
Yeah.
That's where all the lighting people hangs out. That's where all the interviews are done. Is in these containers. So sometimes, you know, you'll have people traipsing around all day long, and they don't even go on until the next day, like Judas Priest.
Right.
So it was Rob Halford, and my drummer Rickard Sternquist says, "Hey man, that's Rob Halford. You should go say hi." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" So I walk up to Rob Halford, and I'm like, "Dude, hey, you know," it's like, "Oh, nice to meet you," and everything. Well, I had just got off seeing him on stage like the day before, and I was backstage, so I could, you know, see the teleprompter and stuff. And I saw that he was having like a tough time looking at the crowd. And he looked like he was really jet lagged or something, and kind of. So I brought that up to Rob Alford. I said, "Dude, you," and I saw that you were having like a tough time, you know, singing, and it looked like you were so tired. And I felt kind of bad because you're my hero. And he's like,
I know.
"Okay, see you later," and turned around and walked off. And Ricker's like, "What did you do?" He just walked off. I'm like, "Oh," I was so starstruck that I told him, you know, what I saw of his performance and what I thought. He's like, "Why did you do that?"
Yeah, I mean, the first your first encounter, and it went so at best.
It was terrible, but
maybe not even so. That might be worse than so.
One time it was a good encounter, though.
Okay.
And it was the rock and roll race where rock stars were in Denver, Colorado, and they were racing these little mini Indy cars.
Yeah.
And Vince Neil was there, and Sabo, Sebastian Bach, and everybody was there. Well, Titan Force was playing this little club just right outside of the place in Denver, like that very same night. And so we were playing in this club, and there was just like 10 people in this club, you know. So we're like, "Okay, well, who cares? We'll just, you know, have a good night and have fun." Well, in walks Sebastian Bach with his girlfriend, and they start playing pool. We're like, "Whoa," and we're still on stage doing our songs. Well, then in walks Ronnie James Dio.
Holy shit.
In this little bitty round table that you could barely fit 2 people at. And he puts his beer down, and he had a dark beer, and he just was watching us. And so we're like, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit." And the drummer's like, "Don't choke, don't choke." So
no pressure.
Yeah, we're close to the end of our set. And so we had the guy that booked the show for us.
Yeah.
Came up to us and said, "Dude, you guys do Mob Rules really good. You need to do Mob Rules." I'm like, "No, we're not gonna play fucking Mob Rules with
not in front of him." Right.
Sitting right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do it anyway. And then at the end of it, I'm like, "I'm sorry, Ronnie. It wasn't my idea," you know. And he's like, he puts his thumbs up. So we got off. He didn't leave. Sabo's still back there with his girlfriend playing pool. And I sit down and I talk to Ronnie. He's like, "Hey, man, you got great pipes." And I'm just like shaking, you know.
Yeah.
He calmed me down, and he's like, "Don't worry about it, man. It's cool." And we sat and talked just about things in the world, you know. And I'm like, "How's it been? How is it with you?" And he says, "You know, I've been around a lot." So then he goes, "Hey, I got to go." So we said bye. And then Sabo comes up and says, "Hey, man, you want to shoot some pool with me?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So yeah, I'm here shooting pool with Sebastian Bach. I'm like, "Oh my god!"
And Ronnie James Dio is just a very nice, gracious guy. It seems like too. And I'm in upstate New York. He's a fellow upstate New Yorker. Rest in peace, the great Ronnie James Dio, one of the greatest, right, of all time. Maybe the greatest. A body that small, a voice that big, incredible.
He calmed me down. He's like, "Hey, man, relax." You know?
Yeah,
I'm
an
just
icon.
like, just happen to be lucky, you know. You're up there on stage and you're doing your thing, and we're just people, right?
Yeah. We at the end of the day, yeah.
Talking about everyday things, the weather, how his life is. You know, he's living in a castle, which is something that he dreamed of as a kid. You know, I said, "Oh, that must be cool." And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's awesome. I got swords and shields and everything." So it was just amazing to sit down, you know, because that was back before, you know, he even went to Black Sabbath. He was still doing his Dio thing. So yeah, but that was super amazing. That is the one positive thing, I guess, that happened. You know, of meeting one of my icon people. But yeah, that I really blew it with Jeff Tate. I mean,
Halpern. And so
really
now
blew
the Hallowed is out there. So what's your summer looking like? Going to be a lot of time on the road?
Well, actually, we have something scheduled, a short European tour, starting the 23rd or 24th of July and going into like the second week of August. And then we're taking some time off, and then we're doing the one-off Wisconsin gig, the Blades of Steel, I think, Metal Fest in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And then beyond that, nothing is planned. All we know is that we were told to make sure our passport's in order for January.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that that's going to be the South America that they were talking before the album was released. So that would be cool. But whatever happens, and that's why we're just we want to see how this thing's going to chart in the next couple of weeks, because if it charts well, we get in the top 20, or oh my God, I don't want to jinx this, but even the top 10, and we can stay up there with a few songs or something for a couple of weeks, that could really be good for us, you know. And there's a lot of bands on the label that is having stuff come out, like UDO has got something, you know, that's coming out, and Riot 5 got something that's coming out. So it'd be cool to do, you know, tours with those people, with our label mates, and see a ton of places, you know. That'd be great.
Riot 5, I'm going to write down. That sounds like a band that I might like, Riot 5. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's basically the reiteration, the 5th time around of Riot. And it has Donnie Stafford, the original bass player in the band.
Okay.
And it has like a guitarist that's been in there. Mike has been in there for like 25 years. The drummer's been with the band for like 15, 18 years. Todd Michael Hall's been singing now with the band for 8 years. Insane vocalist, spot on every night. I can't believe it. 2.5-hour shows, and he's just tearing it up. So yeah, it's a great. What they do is the old Riot stuff, and also they've got 2 albums that are lately out, and they're just finishing up. They're going to be releasing yet another one with the lineup now. So, but yeah, it sounds just like the old Riot.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. Yeah.
Now, here's one of the toughest questions that I usually end the interviews with, and this is the most polarizing one that usually trips people up the most. I'm dropping the Tyrant on a fucking desert island, and he can only take 1 album. Do you know which album you're taking? Your desert island pick.
Yeah. Journey Arrival.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep you. And that's going to keep you sufficed on this desert island for all the rest of your days.
Yeah, man, those songs are sweet.
Okay.
And that on there is sweet, and Neil Sean's leads are sweet. Yeah.
Okay.
Journey
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I can never knock what an album means to a guy. You know what I mean? If that's the one you want to take, I mean, yeah, you know, that's the beauty of music. You know, you guys almost rented out to us.
Yeah, I just love hearing Steve Perry's voice. It's like butter. It's like butter.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we'll ever see them back together again, Journey and Steve Perry. I don't know. I would love to see it happen, though.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Steve can really. He's even said this. It's tough for him to sing that stuff.
Yeah, I imagine. He set the bar very high.
You can tell that when he was doing For the Love of Strange Medicine, you know, he had spent too much time away from it. And back then, those guys were like, oh my God, admitted heavy coke users, you know, Aerosmith. I mean, they were around those guys. And so everybody was like heavily into coke. And man, when you snort coke and it drips down past your esophagus, erodes that shit. Yeah. And, you know, after time, it's just going to mess you up. And I think that's really what happened to Don Dokken. Yeah. It eroded everything that he had. And it's just not there anymore. There's no way you can force it. You know, it's just.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, who it is still there for, Jag Panzer and you, my friend, because this album kicks ass, man. I'm glad we finally got the chance to do this. I apologize about the technical difficulties the other day and for the short notice. We had a huge thunderstorm here. Suddenly I had nothing. You know, I mean, it's.
Well, this is the time of the year for a thunderstorm. So, and hail, oh my God. Back in my hometown, Colorado, they were talking about hail being just crushing. And a couple of years ago, hail was going through people's skylights and breaking their windows and stuff. It's like saying, I'm so glad I'm here in Greece. We don't get hail, and we rarely get snow, you know.
How about you get
about is it's really humid, super humid here. So, you know, get used to being sweaty because you're always sweaty.
And I'm sure you can get some good hummus there, correct?
Yeah. And,
tabbouleh?
So I don't know what that is, but yeah, I'm sure I could find it. Tabbouleh?
Tabbouleh.
Oh, yeah, my wife does. She's nodding her head.
I think. Well, it was a real pleasure getting the chance to talk to you, man. The new album really kicks a lot of ass, man. I mean, kudos, man. I'm really enjoying it, man. Hopefully we can keep in touch and we can do this again sometime down the road. This has been really fun.
Yeah, Rex, it's been awesome. So.
And the next time I got to come with a stronger nickname. I got to come with something that rivals the Tyrant. I mean, I came ill prepared here.
T-Rex.
T-Rex. There you go. I love that. Thank you.
Why didn't you think of that years ago? That's just like
I know. You're right. You're so right. You know, sometimes sometimes it takes someone to point out the obvious. I mean, I really appreciate you joining me, man. Yeah, this was really fun, Harry. Thank you very much, man.
All right, well, take it easy. Enjoy.
All right. Thank you, brother. Best of luck with everything. Talk to you soon.
Adios.
All right, later. There he goes, folks. A real bona fide legend. That is Harry the Tyrant Conklin, who just dubbed me, Rex Ruger, your humble host, just dubbed me T-Rex. That's right. That nickname comes courtesy of the Tyrant himself. The man, the myth, the legend, the lead singer of JAG Panzer. If you don't know him, off with your metal card. It's been pulled. They just dropped their new album just days ago at the time of this recording called The Hallowed. And it's what you expect from JAG Panzer. Melts your face. Classic, good, old school power metal. Enough said. So, and of course, the guy is just so gregarious, so affable, such a larger-than-life presence and energy. You know, you can see why that band just keeps on propelling forward. Positivity and an amazing fucking voice, an amazing, the whole band, an amazing cast of fellows, fantastic players, fantastic voice, fantastic songs, craftsmanship, concepts, themes, lyrics. It's all there, man, and it's all there on this new album. 2023's The Hallowed is out now. Go do your homework and fucking check it out. It's Rex Ruger, T-Rex approved. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And until we get together and we do this thing again, and it will be soon, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.